Years ago, famed British architect Norman Foster proclaimed that his favorite building of the 20th century was a plane, the Boeing 747. Now, the jumbo jet he's so honored is on its final approach as a passenger plane. Chris Van Cleve gives us the view from the cockpit.
I don't know any pilot that does not want to fly a 747. If they tell you that they don't, they're lying.
There aren't many aviators who've had a career like Teresa Claiborne. She was the first African-American woman pilot in the Air Force, and for the last 27 years, one of only a handful of black women pilots at United Airlines. But if you ask this trailblazer the highlight,
First of all, it's beautiful.
hands down, flying the Queen of the Skies.
It doesn't look like any other airplane. You know, that second story, that hump, kind of reminiscent of a whale. It's just a gorgeous airplane. Thanks for flying with us.
Teresa Claiborne has spent more than 15,000 hours as a first officer on the 747, but none as captain.
It would have been nice if I had been able to slide over to the left seat, but, you know, it wasn't to be the case.
Well, you're sliding over there now.
I am, in a smaller airplane.
She is finally going to make captain, but on the 757, because on Tuesday, United Airlines will fly its very last passenger flight on the 747. And by year's end, not a single U.S. airline will still be flying what's arguably the greatest of all American airplanes.
The 747, it was such a big airplane that people just literally thought it wouldn't fly.
Michael Lombardi is the historian at Boeing, the company that in 1969 revolutionized air travel when it unveiled the world's first jumbo jet. The prototype is now on display at Seattle's Museum of Flight.
When it first came out, it was twice the size of the next biggest airplane.
The big moment arrived as the Clipper Young America taxied into the boarding area at Kennedy Airport.
Before long, airlines around the world were lining up to buy their very own jumbo.
Your airline wasn't an airline unless you had a 747.
And how did those airlines make use of all that extra space? By trying to outdo each other to build the best lounge.
Well, here we are in the upper deck. This is like going back in time.
The early 747s were often equipped with stand-up bars, cocktail tables, even pianos. That's Frank Sinatra Jr. on one of American's 747s back in 1971. But after airline deregulation in the late 70s, those cocktail bars gave way to more seats. In the years ahead, the 747 helped ferry millions of people to faraway destinations.
Because of its size, because of its range, it made flying affordable.
With that distinctive hump, that spiral staircase, it was a plane that captured the imagination. Its 4 engines carried the space shuttle across the country and 5 U.S. presidents around the world, a beacon of American ingenuity. But that same American ingenuity has built newer, more fuel-efficient twin-engine planes. The 747's days carrying passengers are now numbered. But it's outlasted the expectations of its original engineers by almost 40 years and counting. Back in the 1960s, Boeing thought supersonic jets like the Concorde would soon be the norm. And once that happened, the company figured airlines would want to retrofit their 747s for a second life carrying freight. Those supersonic jets never really took off, but they helped make the 747 the most recognizable plane in the world.
When they were designing the 747, knew it was going to be a freighter. They wanted to be able to load freight through the nose. So to do that, they moved the flight deck up on top of the fuselage. And that's how the 747 got its hump.
This iconic design came out of a need to be able to load cargo.
Right. The original design goals of making this a great freighter plane, that's what's keeping this airplane in service, and will keep this airplane around for decades to come.
I'm still coming to work every day and still building these.
When Paul Chamberlain joined Boeing in 1990, the company was cranking out 6 747s a month at its production facility north of Seattle. Now, Boeing delivers just one every 2 months.
There's a bit of me on every one of those airplanes. And so it's kind of an odd feeling to see that phasing out. Kind of traumatic in a way.
But he hopes the plane's life as a freighter will keep him building 747s as long as he can.
Every time it takes off, I get goosebumps to think that something this big, something this awesome, just lifted off. It's in the air. It's pretty phenomenal.
Even people who don't know airplanes know a 747 when they see it.
Everybody stops and looks.
And that's what United's Teresa Claiborne will miss most.
They just stop and stare because it's that awesome,
You know, they call it the Queen of the Skies.
right?
Do you think that's fitting?
Well, between you and me, I used to call it the king.